you have any meat if you don't eat your pudding?
The Tommy Boyd Show. Tommy Boyd.
You ever sometimes, morning, been hit up by something and thought to yourself, that seems so wrong, the fact that nobody else thinks it's wrong, otherwise somebody would have said something to you about it, or you'd have read about it, or seen it on television, I don't know. You think to yourself, well, it must be me. I must be going eccentric. I'll keep this to myself. Because if I do turn out to be the only person who thinks that this is mad, well, that makes me mad. If I do turn out to be the only person who thinks that this is obscene, then there must be something wrong with my morality. So you keep it to yourself. So I did yesterday, all day yesterday. I didn't mention it to a soul. I didn't mention it to my wife, who I could have mentioned it to. I didn't mention it to any of my colleagues here at Talk Radio. And I didn't mention it to you listening. But because it jumped up and bit me again today on the train on the way in, and about, quarter of an hour ago, I happened to mention it to two of my most trusted colleagues here at Talk, and they said, I do not Victor Meldrew it. I thought I'd wonder, well, what do you think about it? Because this is either ludicrous or obscene. I'll tell you what it is in a second, but I want you to work out in your own mind, or C, it could be something else. Is it A, ludicrous? Is this B, obscene? Or is it C, something else? We've got a number of national newspapers in Britain. The best one used to be the Racing Post. It's just amalgamated with the legendary Sporting Life. And what they've done is this. They have launched an appeal to raise money for a worthy and needy cause. What happened is this. A young postman in Hull, and his photograph with his wife is in the current edition, and he looks well fed, that's all I'll say on that, went into a bookies about a year ago and had a £5 each way accumulator on the teams that he thought would win the 4 English divisions: Arsenal, Notts Forest, Watford and Notts County. And they did. So he pitched up at the bookies to collect his winnings, which was not insubstantial, but in this day and age, not humongous, £22,500. The bookies said, can't pay, won't pay, shut up shop, went out of business, and hoped that the matter would rest there. Now, this is one of life's hard luck stories, but that's all it is. It's tough, you know what. I felt for the guy, because that must be the height of annoyingness. But it's only money, and it never was his. And he only got lucky. It is tough, you know what. However, because presumably this Racing Post newspaper has decided that people might lose their confidence in going into a bookies if they think there's a gnat's chance of the bookie welshing, there's a form, bottom of page 2 of the Racing Post, and it was there yesterday, with a piece reminding us of this man's problem. And then the form says, how to contribute. How to contribute. If you would like to contribute, please send a cheque made payable to the Racing Post Brian Towndrow Fund. That's the postman, Brian Towndrow. And address the envelope, blah, blah, blah. So the paper is trying to get members of the public, ordinary folk, who have perhaps a charity budget of maybe 50 pence a week, I don't know, to hand their money over to a postie in Hull. Now, is this ludicrous? Is this obscene? Or is it something else? Free call 0500 10 53 89. Because in my Guardian today on page 12, you see, and this is the point, you have to be so careful, don't you, when you ask somebody to help somebody else, because you have to consider the kind of signals that are given out by the requests that you make. On page 12 of The Guardian, there is a picture of a tiny little thing of an African child in the Sudan at a hospital in southern Sudan. And it's one of those pictures in which the child, who is covered in flies and who's too tired even to keep its eyelids quite open, tired, starving, and whose hand fits against the white hand of a medical worker like a doll's hand. Free call 0500 1053 89. Sometimes, for the sake of conversation, you pretend you're crosser about something than you really are, or sometimes you exaggerate things for purposes of journalism and theatre and hyperbole. But honestly, I am right on the edge with this one. I am so cross that there must be people in Britain who think that it is more important to hand over their money to what amounts to a charity appeal to some bloke who's had the bookies welshed on him than to give their money to people who are starving or people who have just suffered the terrible effects of a tidal wave. And I think it's appalling. It is the most appalling newspaper campaign I've ever come across with what we know about the world today. Or what? Or did I eat something that disagreed with me? I don't know. Have I got this one right? I asked you. Is it ludicrous? Or is it obscene? Or is it something else? Free call 0500 1053 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
The Waterhole.
Cutting edge.
Tommy Boyd.
Sucks less.
I don't want to bring this up, but you've been treating a lot of people with a lot of disrespect.
Oh, some people deserve it, don't they? Chris calls from Clapham. You're on Talk Radio. Chris, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello?
Hello, Chris.
Hello, Tommy.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You're going to disagree with me, aren't you?
Yes, I am, 100%.
Do you know how I know that?
How?
Because you're already having a struggle with your argument and you haven't started yet. Get on with it.
Well, my argument is that the guy who's put his bet on in all good faith for the bookie in Hull, and he's won it £22,000, I think he should be entitled to pick his £22,000 up without any problem at all.
Right, okay, get your chequebook out then.
No, it's not down to me.
Yes, it is. It is. That's what the newspapers are saying. You should contribute. Do you want the address?
No, I don't want to contribute. But
You're
I
not going to contribute.
It's totally wrong that you've put it in the same category as a child in Africa. Why should anyone not give any money to him and give money to a child in Africa? There's enough charities, and we get seen child in Africa all the time. It's nothing.
Yeah, that's
to do
because
with it.
the children in Africa are starving still, despite all the charitable work that goes on.
And they always will be starving. No matter how much charitable work goes on, it won't change what's going on in Africa. You give as much money as you want now, and they'll be starving again in a couple of years' time.
If you had £10, who would you give it to? A starving child in Africa or a well-fed postman in Hull?
I wouldn't give it to either of them.
Well,
I'd give it if any charity work I do give to, which are my own charity.
I'm asking you to make a straight choice. I'm not asking you to bang your drum. I'm not asking you to do a smashy and nicey and talk about charity, and I don't like to talk about it, mate. All right? I want you to tell me who you would rather give your £10 to, a starving child in the Sudan or a well-fed postman in Hull who's lost a gambling debt.
I've answered that already.
No, you didn't. You said neither.
I wouldn't give it to either.
All right, well, you've got to choose then, otherwise...
I've got to choose.
Yeah, otherwise you're a waste of a human skin.
Well, I'd give it to the African child.
Thank you very much indeed. That's the point I'm making. And that's all of I'm saying. So where on earth you got off with the idea you can disagree with me, since you do agree with me, is a mystery, isn't it?
I don't agree with you, because we've all got our own choice. We don't have to contribute. You put me on the spot and say to me, which one would I contribute to?
Okay, well, you put me on the spot then, pal. You think that I'm not talking sense on this one? Go ahead, put me on the spot.
Well, I think you're not talking sense in comparing the man in Hull and the child in Africa, because you look at both things and we decide ourselves...
When we're asked for our money, Chris...
Right.
When we're asked for our money, which where I live, you're asked for your money all the time.
And where I live as well.
Okay, so you're asked for your money, and when you open a newspaper, you're asked for your money.
Right.
When you listen to radio stations, you're asked for your money.
Yeah.
All right? And most of the time when you're asked for your money, it's because somebody needs it.
Right.
For food.
Well, not necessarily for food. No,
okay,
that's not right.
No, or need it because they're needy.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, yeah, if you want to, okay.
Oh, if I want to what? Talk sense?
No, if you want to change, all right, if you want to change, first of all, you said food, then you realise that was a bit dodgy. So
no, I hadn't finished, actually. You said, hang on. I was going to finish the sentence, but you didn't let me.
Right.
Now, when you're asked for money, generally speaking, it's because the person needs it more than you do.
Well, presumably, hopefully, yes.
Right. So what about this bloke, then, in Hull?
What about him?
Well, what does he need?
I still can't see how... what I've got a problem with the argument is, I can't see how this guy in Hull has been linked with a sick child in Africa, only the fact that you've seen 2 different adverts in 2 different newspapers.
No, there isn't an advert for the child in the Sudan. It's just that when somebody asks me for money, I say to myself, why should I hand it over?
Right.
Okay?
But
And because I don't have enough money to feed the world,
okay.
clothe the poor, cure the sick.
Do you make an individual...
I have to make a decision. Excuse me. I have to make a decision about where it's going to go, and that's painful.
Okay.
Because if I give to Dr. Bernardo's, I don't give to the RSPCA.
Right, agree.
But generally speaking, the spectrum of charities and needy causes which ask for my help by getting in my face with provocative pictures and powerful words, everything within that spectrum is deserving of my money. Now, sat right in the middle of that spectrum of needy causes is a well-fed postman in Hull whose bet on Arsenal came off, but the bookie cleared off.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, Tommy...
Don't you think doesn't it sit there like a frog on an iced cake?
No, not really, mate, because I'll tell you where I sympathise with the guy 100%. That bloke in Hull, now I don't know the story and I don't know him, but he's probably never going to get another chance to get 22 grand in his life. He's had it off with a right... I mean, who would have thought Arsenal would have won the league last year?
Oh, you're drifting, Chris. You see, you're a shallow man. You're more interested in that aspect of it than the morality of it. John calls from Fife. You're on Talk Radio, John.
Hi, Tommy. My name is John Brown. I agree with you. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that the guy, they've put this advert in the paper. At the end of the day, the guy's lost a £5. That's as much as he's lost, eh?
Exactly. Well, £10 plus tax, £10.90.
Sorry, I must have picked you up wrong. I thought it was £5.
£5 each way he had.
Is it each way? Right, okay. I'm not a gambling man, eh?
No.
But at the end of the day, that's what the guy's lost, a tenner.
Yeah.
So I feel it's absolutely ridiculous that the paper would put something like that in an
I've
advert.
never been asked to whip round. Sometimes when people leave, I mean, we've got somebody leaving Talk in promotions, and I'm sure there'll be a collection, and that's fine, and we'll buy her a toaster. I mean, I kind of understand that.
Mm-hmm. But they're playing on people's emotions. I mean, people will read that and think, oh, what a shame. But they forget that at the end of the day, the guy's lost £10. So, they shouldn't be conned into putting money into something like that. I mean, I don't know the guy's sympathies, the guy's circumstances, so...
he's a postman, he's got a job, he's a postman. I understand he's...
Is he working?
He's working.
Yeah.
He's got a job. I think he wants the money to buy a new house.
We could all do with that. I'd like to pay off my mortgage.
Would you really put your hand into your pocket to give a complete stranger from Hull a chance of buying a new house?
No chance. No chance at all, no.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks for your call. Free call 0500 10 53 89 is the number. Margaret calls from Perthshire. You're on Talk Radio, Margaret.
Hello. I think it is both obscene and ludicrous. I think it's just absolutely disgusting that people in the world are dealt harder things and harder blows than losing £10 to the bookie. And I think that the paper are totally... They should be closed down. They're only doing it for their publicity or for whatever reason to keep people going to the bookies.
Well, I mean, to be fair to this newspaper, they want people to continue to gamble. And they're worried that people will stop gambling or the number of people who gamble will be reduced if some people fear that when they put a bet on, the bookie's not going to pay out.
Well, wouldn't it be better to, maybe the same with people who pay for their holiday and they're worried about the travel agency might go bust, so they have the ABTA that covers people like that. So maybe people who are wanting gambling to keep going and bookies to keep going should form a kind of thing like ABTA that pays out, but they don't come and ask the people who are working for their crust of bread to put beans and toast on the table for the family.
Precisely.
So that a postie can buy a new house.
Margaret, thanks for your call. Stefan calls now from Swansea. You're on Talk Radio. Stefan, good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy. I listen to you most days. You're a very reasonable chap, and I agree wholeheartedly with the point you're making. But I do take issue with your turn of phrase. As you can tell, I'm Welsh, and the phrase Welshing, I don't know whether you realise it, but it's very insulting to Welsh people. And you used it twice in your introduction.
I did, yeah.
Well, it's insulting to Welsh people because it makes an association between being Welsh and being untrustworthy.
Well, apparently, when the term was coined, it was legitimate. But that isn't the point. What's the alternative term?
Well, the alternative would be something like reneging.
Oh, I hate reneging.
I'm sure you do hate reneging. I'm sure you never do renege.
No, I'm talking about the word. I would never use that word. It's a ludicrous word. It's a dead word. It's a word that politicians use, like farrago, like a farrago of lies.
Well, exactly. And a word like Welshing should also be a dead word, as they're doing in America, because it is insulting to the whole race.
No, that's garbage. You lot are hopeless, some of you Welsh. You really are pathetic. Here we are talking about high morality and the state of the starving in Sudan, and you lot can't get past the idea that the Welsh have been slighted.
No, Tommy.
Don't you think that's obscene in itself? That you haven't got what it takes to turn your attention to the world starving?
No, because I began by agreeing with your basic contention, which I do. And in fact, I only called...
Well, why can't we talk about that then? Why are we going to talk...
I only wanted to pass on a message. I'm quite happy to talk about your maiden point.
You know why the Welsh are inferior to the English?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
I am. It's because every time the English are slighted, they don't give a hoot, because it doesn't matter. It's water off a duck's back. Sticks and stones.
I'd be quite happy to defend the English if they were slighted as well. Because
why don't you... All right, then why don't you ring up the BBC every time they say that somebody's put a bit of English on the ball?
Sorry? Every time they put a bit of English on the ball?
Yeah.
Explain to me, because in my ignorance, I don't know what putting a bit of English on the ball means.
No. Well, at least you've admitted you're ignorant, and I didn't even have to twist your arm, did I?
No, Tommy, I'm here to be educated as you do with most people who call you.
Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boy. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
I love you. That man cares for you.
Tommy Boyd Show.
Get real with the people on the dance floor.
Talk Radio.
Free call 0500 10 53 89.
I had a bloke on yesterday talking about his newspaper, and he said he read his Telegraph backwards, starting at the sports pages, as people should do. I've started reading my paper from the obituaries outwards. It's really interesting seeing how people are commemorated when they die. Alan Shepard, the astronaut who has just died, obviously has had quite a bit written about him. But this is the bit that stood out for me, the bit that I didn't know, the bit that I wished I'd known when I was a 10-year-old child when he made his first flight into space. It's this. He was sat on the launch pad waiting for America to launch their first ever space rocket, and one problem after another happened. So eventually he'd been sat on the tarmac for 4 hours waiting for the launch. And as he waited, and I'm reading now, biography of him by Harold Jackson, as he waited, he could feel his bladder growing steadily fuller. No provision had been made for the inevitable consequence. When he finally conveyed his plight to ground control, he was instructed to do it in the suit. And when he eventually did take off, and he was only in the air for 15 minutes, he was only in space for 5 minutes, he took off praying fervently that he'd done nothing disastrous to the mass of wiring running through the suit and the capsule. Free call 0500 10 53 89. It's a funny business, isn't it? We spend a lot of time talking about eating and drinking, and we spend very little time considering at all the consequences of those two crucial actions. Evacuation. It's not discussed. It's done in private, with very little celebration whatsoever. I've been 3 times for a wee today. There. You just don't talk about it, do you? We talk about whether we had breakfast or not, and we talk about whether we had lunch. But this crucial activity, you know, which he couldn't delay, even though he was about to embark on one of humanity's most fantastic journeys, is never discussed at all. Never celebrated either, because it's glorious, isn't it? And sometimes it changes history. Did you see the movie The Madness of King George? If it hadn't been for that posh new young doctor spotting the fact that there was a discoloration of the king's urine, then the illness that was damning him and lost us the colonies would never have been discovered. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I ever had kidney stones? I ran the London Marathon and ended up with a week in hospital because some kidney stones started to move down. And what they do is they make you drink 8 pints of water a day, and then you have to monitor and sieve your own wee, which is you sort of get in touch with yourself a bit better than you ever had been before when you're having to go into a cubicle and pee into a bowl through a perfectly ordinary kitchen colander with a very fine mesh. Didn't find any anyway. Free call 0500 10 53 89. And what about when you want to go but can't go and you've got to hold on? It's agony, isn't it? Only once have I played the stupid pub game. Last one to go and do a wee is the winner. Don't do it. I don't know what kind of damage you might do, but it's no fun. And the problem is, of course, leakage when you do finally decide to get up and go. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening. This is I love you. Got my cash for you.
Tommy Boyd Show.
Get real with the people on the dance floor.
Talk Radio.
Free call 0500 10 53 89.
Mundo Latino includes the original Massacre by Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66. Mundo Latino, the ultimate summer album on CD for only $9.99 from Andy's Records.
I think I'm making a complaint about the Tommy Boyd Show yesterday afternoon.
Fantastic. It was terrible, wasn't it?
I don't usually listen to his programme, but I just switched on to get a time check. And he was talking, he passed with derogatory remarks on left-handers. And I think that was appalling. Who's laughing?
Sorry, somebody in the background's laughing.
Oh, well, I think you better attend to your job.
Yes. Well,
right.
Now, Mrs. Hayes,
album on CD for only $9.99 from Andy's Records.
Yeah, certainly. What did he say?
If left-handers are what this Tommy Boyd that includes Prince William.
Summer Carnival hits featuring.
I'm
writing all this down.
Pardon?
He didn't. Surely.
What?
He didn't cast
he
aspersions.
Should have kept his remarks to himself. And how many left-handers are there?
The problem is
Hundreds.
if you keep your remarks to yourself on a radio programme.
That's what he wants to do. Yes.
Well, you see my point. It's very quiet. I think the point he was making, Mrs. Hayes, is that cars are designed for right-handed people.
I'm not concerned with that. We know all that. We don't need his intelligence test to tell. I'm a retired head of department.
Oh, dear.
And I'm used to people. And I've had a lot of left-handers in my charge. And they're the most considerate, polite, intelligent people you could wish to meet.
Right, well, anyway, I'll have him fired for you.
Yes. I'd like him reprimanded, if that's possible.
No, I can have him fired.
Well, that would be even better.
I'll do that.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else you want castigated, or she's gone. Fantastic. And she was a head of department. Is it any wonder that our school children are turning out so well? Free call 0500 10 53 89. Eddie calls from Manchester. Eddie, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Tommy. Share an experience of going for a wee with you and your listeners, if you don't mind. About 2 years ago, I was getting up in the middle of the night 3 and 4 times, and like they do at the hospital, I went for a little bit of exploratory looking at the waterworks, and it involved putting a camera or something like a fibre optic in via, as a bloke, the normal route. And I came out, and after it was general anaesthetic, and I came out, and they said, well, we can't discharge you. It's called a cystoscopy. They said, we can't discharge you until you pass water. So I got up, felt great, I felt absolutely smashing, so I thought, I'd just go, pass a bit of water, and they'll give him a ticket to get out. Anyway, I went to the lavatory, and I'm stood there waiting for the usual thing. The pain was so incredible, I actually passed out, smashed my head against the toilet, broke my glasses, and ended up with a stitch, a flat nose, and I looked like I'd been in a fight with Henry Cooper, just for having gone for a wee.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Well,
you have my sympathy there.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the time it wasn't funny, obviously. But
no, you got me thinking, you see, because I was just thinking whilst I was listening to you about all the politics that there is in men's, in the gents.
Yeah.
I don't think women realise how complicated life is when we go, to relieve ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, bashful bladder syndrome, etc. Let me quite embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, let me just touch base with you on this one. Supposing you go in and there's 5 stalls and they're all empty, which one do you use?
Well, I'd use the nearest.
The nearest?
Yeah, I mean, usually when I go, it's because I'm desperate to go, so I'll go to the nearest.
Do you wait until you're really desperate to go?
Yeah, I do actually, because especially if I've been out for a drink.
But is that good for you?
Pardon?
Is that good for you?
I'm sure it isn't. I'm sure it's putting strain on things that shouldn't be strained.
But what's interesting is they don't give us advice about that. We can get advice about anything we want, can't we, to do with our bodies and what we put into it and how we treat our bodies and look after our bodies. But I don't even know how quickly you're meant to evacuate your bladder. Nobody's told me.
I suppose it's when if it starts getting painful or something like that. I mean, it was subsequently found out I was just suffering from a little bit of stress. But, I mean, there's people who are actually quite ill. And basically, people, and men especially, I mean, they thought with me, obviously, it was something like prostate. But because I was quite young at the time, they said it would have been highly unlikely. But men don't like talking about it. I mean, it's like, defecating. People just won't go and talk to the doctors.
No.
And it's almost as if it is a taboo subject, as if it's something dirty. Yet when you go abroad, I mean, I've just come back from the World Cup recently, and basically the lavatories in some of the places we went to were I suppose, what we'd class as medieval.
Well, the French have a very different idea about the architecture of their toilets, don't they?
Yeah, and not just the architecture. Yeah, not just the architecture of the toilets, but I mean the way that the human body's made. I mean the way that they design their toilets, so they're purely functional. You're not going to hang around in most of them, and you're going to do what you're doing and then get out as quick as you can.
Eddie in Manchester, thank you for your call. I read a fascinating article in some magazine not long ago, which explained that the loos that we have in this country, which we sit upon, are the cause of a great many problems. A, because they're so comfortable, some people spend too long there and end up with hemorrhoids, or can exacerbate their hemorrhoidal situation. And also because sitting in order to evacuate is not the best position, and a better position from the point of view of a bowel movement is to actually be squatting, which is what we did for hundreds of thousands of years before that man Thomas, what's his name, allegedly, invented the machine. Free call 0500 1053 89. Veronica calls from Taunton. You're on Talk Radio. Veronica, hello.
Oh, hello. You sounded like you're coming from Mars then. You bleeped and hiccuped and did all sorts.
Technology, I don't get it.
Oh, well, there you go then. Progress. Hello, Tommy. I've got a wee-wee story for you.
Right.
I'm calling it a wee-wee story because I was only 3 at the time.
Yep.
I lived in Plymouth. I remember it was a very cold winter's day, and my mum and I were waiting for a bus. And we waited for what seemed like forever. And when you're tiny and it's cold, you suddenly need to go for a wee, don't you?
Mm.
Well, we got on the bus and were sitting there, and I was really feeling quite uncomfortable. My mum said, well, don't worry, it won't be long until where we're going to. And in my innocent way, I thought to myself, I'm not going to last. I'm going to have to sort of do something here.
Mm.
And I thought, I know what I'll do. If I just do a little bit at a time, it'll sort of sink into the chair and nobody will ever know. If I just do a little bit every sort of 2 or 3 minutes. Well, when you're only 3 and you're dying for a wee and you start to go, you can't stop.
No, you can't. And it's very painful.
Yes.
I don't know if it is for women. Is it painful? It is for men if we're halfway through and we try to stop.
Yeah.
It
and
burns.
I think all of us do that. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, there's no noise quite like it, is it?
It's wonderful.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. At a football match, sometimes you can never, ever, you have 3 pints before the game starts.
Right.
That's legit. And you have 1 wee in the pub, and then off you go. And you're bursting by about 20 minutes into the game. But you don't go until half-time, and then there's a queue.
Absolutely, yeah.
And all of you are queuing there, and you're all going, do-do-do,
yeah.
do-do-do-do-do-do.
Oh, lovely.
Oh. And can I ask you this?
Yes.
Delicate, sorry. I don't care. Look, men sometimes can't go.
Right.
Does that ever happen to women?
How do you mean can't go?
Can't go.
Yeah.
Bursting.
Yeah.
Dying to go.
Yeah.
Want to go, full bladder, need to go.
That's right.
Could die if don't
when
go.
When we're pregnant, something goes wrong with the waterworks and we need a plumber. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's interesting because with us it's if someone's watching.
Oh, right.
Can't go.
Oh, right.
Well, it depends who, but you generally can't. And it's I think nothing demonstrates the power of the mind more forcibly and thoroughly than the fact that this crucial and instinctive function can't take place because we're wondering what the other person's thinking. Yeah.
I wonder. Tommy, can I digress and ask you a personal question?
Okay.
Many months ago, you discovered, I think it was a telephone number in your wife's pocket or drawer, and you were going to, let us know how you got on the next day. Sadly, I was unable to leave to listen to you.
And we're all right because she's gone to see a friend say, we're letting sleeping dogs lie.
Oh, right.
I think that's the best way.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice to talk with you.
I'm glad you rang.
Thank you.
And then people do drink it and swear by it. Swear by it. They swear by the health-giving properties. These are people who eat well and drink well. They drink lots of water, And they say that there are properties which are with the liquid that we evacuate from our body, which our body needs, and so they replenish those properties by drinking their own. I know. I wonder if anybody listening does that. That will be interesting. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Excellent. We're out in fairly uncharted water. Audrey calls from North Yorkshire. You're on Talk Radio, Audrey.
I've got to go. I've just got to go. If you want to empty your place of listeners,
yes,
keep talking about this, because I'm desperate to go now. I was all right until I heard you on this about this.
Yes.
And the thing I wanted to know was, what do the astronauts do?
Well, they go in their pants.
Yes, but they can't continue going in the pants the whole time, surely.
No, but they go in their pants when they're sitting on the tarmac.
Yes,
but
when they're in space.
They don't go in their pants when they're... They don't...
What's funny?
Nothing. They don't go in their pants, obviously, if they've gone up to the moon for a week.
That's what I mean.
They have a little hose thing that they go in. They have a little hose thing.
Yes.
That they go in.
Yes.
And then it gets blasted out the side of the spaceship.
I wondered what they did, because I couldn't see. I thought they couldn't just not go, could they? And they couldn't keep going in the pants, as you said about the man going. The other, when he first went, what you said something at the beginning of the program about it. I thought, well, this is what. Hey, I'll have to go. I just must go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
Radio. The Tommy Boyd Show. Ho, ho, ho.
Lee calls from Hampshire. Welcome to Talk Radio, Lee. Hello.
Hi, Tommy.
Lee.
I've got to tell you about my kidney stones. It was just incredible. I remember it well. It was year of Euro 96. Just come back from a wedding. Nice, peaceful night's sleep. Wake up about 6 o'clock in the morning. Thought somebody was stabbing me in the back with a hot knife. So I'm rolling around the floor. Managed to phone the doctor. Get the receptionist on the early morning calls. Yep, the doctor will be out in about half an hour. 2 hours later, still no doctor. All right, so I phone up. Get him out here now. I can't handle it any longer. Yep, the doctor will be about in half an hour. Hour later, the doctor turns up. This is about 9 o'clock now in the morning. So he gives me pethidine. And he says, that should make you feel a hell of a lot better. I said, nope, can still feel it. So he gives me another pethidine. Calls for the ambulance, and they wheel me off down to the hospital in Kent. So I'm sat there, pethidine starting to work, things are beginning to ease up. They booked me into the ward straight away. Had renal colic, which is what they call it.
That's right, that's the technical term.
That's the technical term, you see. So the doctor comes out, has a look at the X-rays. You know, I've had the barium mill, whatever it is they give you. They inject it into your arm to track the urinary system. So the doctor says, okay, we're going to take you down tomorrow, and we're going to put in a J-stent.
A what?
Well, what's that then? Oh, it's just a little tube we're going to insert in your urinary tract to keep the tube open. You see, because when you have kidney stones, it makes the urinary tract contract, which is what causes the pain. So I go down, go and have the operation. Wake up in the morning, looking for the scar, you see, or the stitch. So I'm being a bit naive. So the doctor comes round and he's got the X-ray, and you can see this J-stent. I mean, it's like a hairpin, all right, but it's about 2 foot long, and it goes all the way from the wedding tackle all the way up to the bladder. So I said to the doctor, how did you get it in? And he said, well, there's only one way of getting it in. And I said, you're joking. You didn't slip that in there. And they just passed it straight up the urethra.
Yeah.
So I said to him, oh, so what happens when you take it out? He said, oh, well, we just give you a local and whip it out. I said, you're not sticking a needle in that. He said, well, you know, we might have to do an endoscope as well and just have a good look around. I said, well, you can forget that. So he left it in for about 4 weeks. And just before I had my lithotripsy, they took it out, thankfully under a general anaesthetic. But I can tell you, Tommy, while you've got this J-stent in, you have absolutely no bladder control. It's just like a drain. And you can imagine, you know, the relief of going without any pain, but you sort of creep upstairs because this J-stent is really painful to have. You go for a wee and you do like 2 drips. You walk down the stairs, you get about 3/4 of the way down the stairs, and you've got this urge to go again. And it's so bad, the urge, you think you're going to wet yourself.
Yeah.
So you turn around and you creep back up the stairs again, stand over the loo, 2 little drops. Come down the stairs again, about 3/4 of the way down, and you've got to go again. And that's how it continues all the time.
Well, it's a very interesting story, very well explained, if I may say so. If you ever have another operation, you will give me a ring, won't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Sorry. I'm sorry, boy, this is Talk Radio. Somebody once said to me, if you got their idea of hell is to go to a dinner party and be sat next to one bloke on the left who doesn't own a television, and then a bloke on the right who has recently been burgled. This is Talk Radio. There is a good argument for listening.
9 a.m. Talk Radio.
Discussing number ones. Why not? Kerry calls from Halifax.
Hi.
You're on Talk Radio. Hello.
I've come to talk about number twos, actually. Number ones at the moment. It was this February. We went to... big Spurs fan, you see. And I went to see the 3rd round replay, FA Cup, with Barnsley. And at Oakwell, and anyway, they've only got this one toilet and one sink in the female toilets. And anyway, at half-time came, and I was actually busting to go, but and anyway, I went down to the lines, and I couldn't get going. I was waiting the entire second half when they're watching the match, trying to stand up and keep my legs crossed. Stood there the whole second half.
Agony, isn't it?
It's horrible. It's
agony.
Really, I was just stood there and waiting around, and at the end of the match I went, and it was just one toilet there at a big football stadium. And the second story I had was on the way to France. We were in the Caravanette and the toilet wasn't working. And we were going down the motorway, and this is I was absolutely busting to go. And the next service station we could get, I'd be able to use. And anyway, we were on the straight and narrow motorway, and there was no services or anything. And I had been waiting for about 2 hours. Busting to go. And anyway, we got to a corner, and I got out and shit on the corner. I was so bad. And I was there, I'm not lying, for about 3 minutes, just...
Just enjoying yourself. It's a fantastic relief, isn't it?
It is, it's brilliant.
Well, and good luck to Spurs this season.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's about time someone wished us some good luck.
Oh, well, everybody's got a soft spot for Spurs, usually because they're such an easy pushover, you know.
Oh, yeah, they're not.
They are, though, aren't they, a bit, you know. There's nowhere Spurs... I quite like Spurs.
Oh, good.
I'm a Pompey fan now that I live down that... Yes, now that I live down that way.
Anderton played for them.
Yes, Southampton boy.
Yep.
And I quite like Fulham as well, because that was my first team, and you always remember your first
Kevin
team.
Keegan.
Yeah. You know your football, don't you?
I love it.
All right, then I'll ask you a quiz question. You ask me one, okay?
Okay, then.
Who is the number 9 for Bolton?
Bolton?
Yeah.
Oh, is it... it's not McKinley anymore, is it?
No.
No,
Big lad.
I don't know this one.
Nathan Blake.
Oh!
Yeah. Go on, you ask me one then.
Okay, then, no, this will be good. Right, you know when Jurgen Klinsmann came to Spurs the first time round?
Yes.
Well, what shirt did he play in? What number shirt did he play in, which Stefan Iverson now plays in?
10.
No.
Oh, 14.
Number 18.
18, was it really?
Yep.
Interesting. Listen, like I said, have a good season, and thank you for your story.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Here's Sharon in Norfolk. Sharon, you are on Talk Radio. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I think you blokes have it easy when it comes to peeing.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, if we get caught short,
I know.
I mean, we have such a palaver You guys can just go against a wall or in an alleyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely easy.
Better than that. I was on an elevated section of a motorway not long ago, and we got stuck in traffic solid.
Yeah.
You know, and I was bursting.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, there was a pint of milk in one of those plastic cartons you get now.
Yeah.
In the car. So I drank that, and I could use the carton in the car.
See, I mean, that is so much easier.
You couldn't, could
we
you?
have this palaver where we're trying to defy gravity, squatting in behind some bush somewhere,
I know.
trying to avoid wetting our whole clothes.
Oh, terrible.
It is. It's awful. I got caught in a snowstorm once. We were on a coach trip to Surrey. Coach full of students. We were stuck in a traffic jam, so I decided to get off, crouch behind the bush up this embankment. Unfortunately, when I came down, everyone had seen me because the bush wasn't exactly big enough to cover my posterior.
Oh, shame.
Not only that, but the coach had started to coast down the motorway, so I was left running after it, trying to get them to stop in the middle of a snowstorm, which all the other students found really hilarious.
Sorry, I can't get past your posterior.
Yes, well,
Thank
not
you for
many
that.
people can.
Oh, fair dues. Good comment. Well said.
Yeah,
Sorry, I still
well,
can't
that-
get
that
past
was
your
all I wanted
posterior.
to say, that really, you blokes, if the only problem you have is that you can't go every so often,
you see, we evolved in this way for sound reasons. When we were hunter-gatherers and the men would go out and do the hunting and the women would stay in the cave and look after the offspring, you were less vulnerable to predators, weren't you?
Yeah.
So the fact that you have found yourself only able to evacuate your bladder in a sedentary circumstance never laid you open to the threat of a saber-toothed tiger, did it?
Oh, I would say it was even worse because you're not in a running position.
Yeah,
you
I know, but you go around the back of the cave, don't you, or in the cave?
Yeah.
Men out there on the baked savannah, you know,
Yeah.
we've got to have our wits about us and we've got to be able to get going at any given second.
True.
That's how that's why I think we evolved.
Yeah, I
Like
think if
that.
a saber-toothed tiger ever came into our cave, we would be goners if we were in the action,
Yes.
you know, as it were.
Doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
Not
I always
really, no.
think, are you watching that program, The Black Box?
Yeah.
You know when you're on a plane, there's always somebody in the lavatory.
Yep.
And I don't know why, but I can never get past thinking about them when a plane goes down.
Yeah, so it sounds a bit,
I know, you just do, don't you? You feel sorry for everybody who's on the plane, especially somebody who's, you know...
I suppose they might have been cushioned a little bit.
Pardon?
Well, they wouldn't have been thrown down the aisle or whatever.
No, true. There's always an
I think
upside.
if you're going to go down, it doesn't really matter where you are. You're going to get killed anyway.
No, yeah, true. Thanks for your call. Still can't get past your posterior, but thank you anyway.
Okay, then.
Anoop gets the last word on this important topic, which I'm proud that we've given really one of its first airings on national radio to today. Anoop in Altrincham, you're on Talk Radio. Hello.
Hello, Tommy. The answer to the question, how often should we pee, is as often as possible so that you can keep your urinary tract clear of bacteria and kidney stones.
I see. So, often and little.
Absolutely. I mean, the bladder is, strictly speaking, it should be an automatic system. We are taught to override that automatic system as children. And ordinarily, we would be evacuating our bladder in small quantities and very frequently, automatically, virtually all the time, as do horses and animals like that.
Is this is there any risk of psychological or philosophical damage because we, keep it in?
Probably not psychological, but I think if you keep it to yourself too long, it can cause back pressure up the ureters and cause damage to the kidney itself. Yes, it is a problem.
You sound as though you know what you're talking about.
I'm a GP.
Ah. Yeah. An expert.
Well, not really. No, I know a little.
Thanks for your call.
You're welcome.
Free call 0500 10 53 89 as we move the discussion on in the next hour of the programme and focus on a simple truth. Why is it that all of us, every single man jack of us, would rather be Australian? I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
Talk Radio Eyewitness travel now on the M4 eastbound right at the...
on his phone calls. That's why at Cable and Wireless we make this simple promise. We'll save you money on your phone bill or give you back double the difference so you can enjoy the more important things in life. Call us now on 0500 502 502. It couldn't be simpler.
Excludes low user schemes. For full details, including price pledge terms and conditions, call 0500 502 502.
Talk Radio. Tommy Boy. It's time to poison the water hole.
Cutting edge.
Tommy Boy.
Sucks less.
You know, I don't want to bring this up, but you've been treating a lot of people with a lot of disrespect.
Free call 0500 10 53 89. John's our first caller in London. You're on Talk Radio, John. Good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy. I'm a lorry driver, and if I was going to be shot in the morning, I'd have a nice juicy peppered steak and chips and a bottle of red wine.
You would?
Yeah.
And to finish?
Oh, no, I think that
would do you, would it?
Wine.
Yeah. And inadvertently, you've told us that your preferred method of being executed would be to be shot.
Yeah.
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 And you have thought about it, haven't you?
No, but I suppose it just came straight to mind if I had to be executed in the morning and been put up against a wall and shot. It's probably the least painful way.
There's something heroic about it, isn't there?
Well, you don't really have much of a choice in that when you think about it, but
there's something rather demeaning about being strapped to a bare hospital bed for a lethal injection.
yeah, that's true. I suppose if you're being shot, then you're sort of taking it on like a man kind of thing, aren't you?
And as with Gary Gilmore, people speak about...
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.